anyway. As I watch him sleep, I can't help but think about how the sound of River's voice melts my insides, how his gaze makes me quiver, and how his touch drives me wild. Everything about him, about us, feels so right. These intense feelings are unfamiliar to me. I've never felt them before, not even with Ben. Suddenly, a wave of guilt washes over me. Why are my feelings for River so much more explosive than they were for Ben? Squinting my eyes while looking out the sheer covered glass doors, I stare at the scenic view and try to think about River, the man I am enamored with now, and not Ben, the man I loved for so long. But the guilt won't leave me, and I'm racking my brain trying to remember if Ben ever made me feel the way River makes me feel. I can't recall having the same feelings for Ben. Finally I hear, "Good morning, sexy girl," and I'm brought back to the present. I glance his way. Stretching and yawning, he looks ever so sexy himself. "What you doing over there?" he asks, holding his arms out for me to join him. "Good morning yourself," I respond, smiling while I walk toward him and almost jump into his arms. "I was looking for coffee." "Sorry, the coffee pot is the first thing on my list." Grinning at me, he lightly kisses my nose, almost as if he's kissing each freckle. He rises up on one elbow. "Do you wake up early every morning?" Laughing, I speak the truth. I can't sleep when the light shines in from outside. I shift to face him. My parents installed blackout blinds in my room when I was younger so I would stop waking them up at the crack of dawn. He says before adding, "So you're saying if I want to wake up before you and watch you sleep, we'll have to get some heavy-duty blinds?" "River, no, that would ruin waking up to that stunning view." "Wouldn't ruin the stunning view I see when I wake up," he says, looking right at me and tucking a loose piece of hair behind my ear. God, that's what I'm talking about. Everything about him drives me wild. Grabbing his neck, I pull him toward me, kissing him hard. When I release him, he scans my body. A devilish grin appears on his face, and I ask, "What's that face?" He runs his fingers down the buttons of the white shirt, and then he follows with his mouth, tugging on the first button with his teeth. "Do you mean the you're wearing my underwear face?" he asks, moving to the second button. Laughing as his hair tickles my chest, I say, "Oh, I didn't know people had a face for that." He lifts his head and narrows his glare at me. "People? Do people have faces for when their girl is wearing their underwear?" "Well, I love Pac-Man," I say before realizing what he just said. He winks at me adorably and says, "Really? You know how to play?" "Of course I know how to play." "I'll need to check that out," he says as he checks me out, and then says, "You look really hot in Pac-Man." Our laughter quiets down as his hand starts to trace the outline of the little yellow men located on my hip. "By the way, did you just call me your girl?" "Yeah, I did." He's staring at me with only truth in his eyes as he laughs again, tugging on the elastic band of his Pac-Man boxer shorts that I am wearing. Kissing him again, all joking is pushed aside. My kiss is full of want and need, and I make that quite apparent. He instantly groans, then rolls us over so he's now hovering over me. "Dahlia, I don't know what you're doing to me, but if we don't get off this thing very soon, we may be here all day." He pushes his hand down on the air mattress, and I'm not sure it will hold up. "The air mattress or you, River?" "Watch yourself, girlie. You don't want to mess with me." "Well, actually I do. But first I need coffee, so you're in luck. We can't stay in this room all day." Raising an eyebrow, he jokes, "That's not the kind of luck I want." He presses his warm body against mine and continues, "First I'll get you coffee, then we need to hit the stores, and then I'll let you mess with me." "You want to go shopping?" I ask, surprised by his plan for the day. He laughs softly and twists to sit on the side of the mattress. "No, not shopping. Nothing even remotely like shopping, I promise," he says, crossing his finger over his heart. Leaning back toward me, he chuckles and pinches my ass. Just quickly stopping in a few retail establishments to pick up some necessities. Yeah, I respond, sitting up, but I lean against his back, keeping his body close to mine a little longer. I'm pretty sure that is the definition of shopping. As I lean over his shoulder, his head turns toward me, and I kiss him. I caress his tongue with mine and taste him thoroughly before pulling away. Sliding over to the other side of the mattress, I stand up and stretch. Still sitting, twisted with his feet on the floor, his eyes roam my body, and my skin begins to tingle. I bite down on my lip at the sight of him and try to focus on what has always been my morning priority: coffee. But even the thought of my beloved coffee can't suppress my insatiable desire for him. He stands up and lets his unyielding gaze study me for a moment longer. We should probably take a shower. He has a look on his face like he's trying to convince himself that he should leave the room. As he stands there grinning at me, he's completely naked and absolutely sexy as hell. Without saying another word, I grab my bag and saunter off to the bathroom, pushing my shirt off my shoulders and letting it fall off my body, knowing he's watching me. Shortly after I reach the bathroom, I hear his feet padding across the wooden floor, and I know he's headed in my direction. Game on. I win. Having decided to wear the jeans and t-shirt I bought yesterday, since they were my only clean clothes, I slip the clothes on, slide my arms into my black leather jacket, tie my Converse sneakers, the ones I luckily threw in my overnight bag before I left home, and I'm ready to visit a few stores. I haven't been shopping in so long that I am actually a little excited, and my excitement only grows when I walk out of the bathroom and see River texting. He's wearing worn jeans, a black Ramones t-shirt, a black leather jacket, and black work boots. When he smiles at me while slipping on his black beanie, I am transported into the past, to the first time I laid eyes on him, and he's just as sexy now as he was then. While we're driving, I check my many emails and listen to my voicemails. Both Grace and Ari have left messages. I send Ari a quick text and call Grace. I hang up just as my phone battery dies, and I mention to River that I should be getting back to Laguna Beach by Wednesday. His eyes flicker at mine, and he very quietly says, "How about we take it day by day?" I want to argue that I really need to get home, but don't, because I couldn't care less about getting home. I just really like being with him. So instead, I smile over at him and say, "I can't stay with you forever, you know." Poking him in the ribs underneath his jacket, I add, "You'll get sick of me and all my games soon enough anyway." We walk into the Grove Shopping Center, where I've been a handful of times. It really does have the best shopping. I can find all my favorite stores here, including Nike Goddess, Pottery Barn, J. Crew, and H&M. Coincidentally, the first place we hit is Pottery Barn. I'm quickly learning that shopping with River is rather comical. As we enter the store, he approaches the more than willing to assist young brunette, who instantly bats her eyelashes at him. She blinks at first, as if trying to place him. I laugh as he jumps on one of the mattresses and tries to take me with him. In 30 minutes, we have selected neutral bedding, soft towels, and fluffy pillows. We also pick out a mattress, box spring, and a black leather tufted headboard. The flirty salesgirl didn't have to bat her eyelashes to convince him to add the coordinating nightstands. He would have done it anyway. He quickly pays and arranges delivery for later today. As we walk through the stores, his arm slung over my shoulder and my hand in his back pocket, he tells me that he wants to take me to a place called Smitten's tonight. It's a local neighborhood bar that the Wild Ones have been practicing at every Tuesday night for more than 5 years. He says that I'll get to meet his brother, sister, and bandmates, which makes me a little nervous, but I'm excited to finally see him perform with his band. Our next stop is Williams-Sonoma, where we select the newest Starbucks coffee pot and purchase coffee pods, cookware, modern white plates, and silverware. Once again, he arranges for it all to be delivered later today. As we continue to walk through the outdoor mall, we pass by an H&M. "Mind if I duck in and grab a few things?" Nodding, he motions with his head to the side and says, "I'll be over there. I have a few calls to return." Then he kisses me and says, "So take your time." He knows what that does to me. I smile at him and run my fingers up his stomach. It won't take that long. I quickly select a few things to hold me over until I figure out if River has a washer and dryer, or until I go home. Approaching the cash register, I hear the urgent pulsing, almost soaring track of a familiar song. The distorted vocals, heavy electronic chords, and pounding bass beat all mixed together are undeniably Justin Timberlake's masterpiece, Sexy Back. Looking around to figure out where the music is coming from, I finally determined that my purse is singing. As the first verse comes to an end, I can't help but smile and step out of line. Reaching into my bag, I grab my phone. The name River Wild is flashing across my screen. "Hello," I beam, glancing toward the front of the store. There he is, leaning against the wall between two glass window cases. His foot is propped against the pink flowery wallpaper. He has one of his hands in his pocket, and the other is holding his phone to his ear. He smiles his full dimpled smile, and I smile back. Holding his phone out for me to see, he then puts it back to his ear. "Do you like the ringtone I picked?" I guess he must have assigned himself that ringtone when he added us to each other's contacts. I watch him push the phone against his shoulder as a couple of fangirls approach him with pens in their hands. He gives them an obligatory grin and signs the back of one of their shirts and the shoulder of another. I roll my eyes about him, claiming that no one really notices him. "Yeah, I do, Mr. I'm not really that famous," I say while giving him a thumbs up. I point at my shoulder, indicating that I want an autograph too. "But I didn't know Sexy ever left." Shaking his own head, he hangs up the phone. He charmingly waves goodbye to his two groupies and starts walking toward me. "Hey, Sexy, didn't you?" I start to ask when he's close enough, but he ducks his head and kisses me, quickly preventing me from finishing my question. "Hey, Sexy yourself," he says when he pulls away, and I've forgotten what I was going to ask, but figure it didn't really matter anyway. Before taking my hand, he pretends to sign his name on my shoulder, and his touch sends shivers up my spine. "Thank you, Mr. Rockstar." We step back to the line. As we leave the store, River carrying the bags, he says, "I have something I want to show you." "What, the line of groupies outside waiting for you to sign their bare skin?" I joke. "No, smartass. That was random and seriously hardly ever happens." "If you say so, but you can give me an autograph any day of the week." I smile at him, dropping the subject. We hop on the green trolley that travels between the Grove and the farmer's market and get off at the entertainment center. The complex has dozens of buildings and is located on a landscape park with picnic areas in the center. It even has a dancing fountain. There are a lot of people walking around. Some have shopping bags in their hands, and others walk casually while drinking coffee or eating pretzels. The older-looking buildings make the area feel like an old-fashioned downtown. Exiting the trolley first, I grin as River steps off and walks behind me. Leaning into my back, he wraps his arms around my waist and guides me into an open red-brick double-arched building. When my eyes adjust from the sunlight, I see lights and hear sounds everywhere. We've just walked into an arcade. It's very much like the one I frequented with my dad so many years ago. Overcome by emotion, I turn around, throwing my arms around his neck, and kiss him. With labored breaths, I pull away. I clutch his shoulders while he wraps one arm around my waist, the other still holding my bags. "An arcade? Here at the Grove?" "Yeah, I thought you'd like it." "Like it? I love it." Looking around, I see so many black stalls, all of which house video games from the 80s. There's Mousetrap, Asteroids, Centipede, Frogger, Pac-Man, Space Invaders, and Venture, along with skee-ball, driving games, and even a chicken clucker. Closing my eyes and listening to the sounds of the machines around me, I'm transported back to the arcade with my dad, while I fed quarter after quarter into Ms. Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and of course, the pinball machines. My dad was a pinball wizard, and he taught me well. His favorite pinball machine was Flash Gordon. It was the first multi-ball table I ever played. It was equivalent to Black Knight, but better and faster. The table was amazing, and just the thought of getting that 15 seconds still gives me an adrenaline rush. I remember the first extra ball was easy to land, but getting the second was always a challenge. My favorite, of course, was Baby Pac-Man. It wasn't a game for everyone, and my dad didn't really like it because the flippers aimed at the center of the game instead of at the sides. I liked the challenge. He thought it was a flawed table design. It really did make getting to the mazes difficult, but I thrived on that. "Look over there," River says, pointing to Pac-Man. "How about it?" he asks with a twinkle in his green eyes. "Game on, hot stuff," I answer as I head toward the machine. We stay here, playing different games for hours, challenging each other. I sometimes win, but he mostly beats me. I have no idea how. I decide to try my luck solo at the Drive My Course game, while River goes to get more quarters. When I finish, I look around the room and spot him walking my way. I melt. "Close your eyes," he says as he stands in front of me. "Why?" "Just close them." Closing my eyes, I feel him take my hand and attach something around my wrist. It's the same wrist where my Cartier love bangle sits. "Okay, you can open now." Staring down, I can't believe what I'm looking at. This adorably sweet and sexy man has just placed a very colorful linked bracelet of the cutest Pac-Man on my wrist. It has a yellow Pac-Man with the blue, red, pink, and orange monsters on it. "I love it," I say as I swallow back tears of joy. I throw my arms around him and say, "Thank you." He lifts me up and twirls me just once before setting me down. "Happy?" Smiling up at him, I say, "More than happy." Chapter 19. The Secret is in the Telling. We're walking through the town where River grew up. He has one arm slung around my shoulder and my hand in his back pocket. He's carrying Stella on his other shoulder. We are on our way to what River described as his local neighborhood bar. It's dusk, but light enough that I can see the upscale town. Every town and every city has something that makes it a little unique. For Brentwood, it's the beautiful white dogwood trees that line its streets and the quaint shops. Downtown Brentwood is a small but trendy area. Its old-fashioned streetlights display banners. Its stores are covered with different-colored awnings, and its sidewalks are even paved with bricks. One place in particular catches my eye, a bookstore named Fiction Vixen. My love for literature draws my attention toward the 2 piles of books in the large windows located on both sides of the front door. The books are displayed in a Christmas tree-like fashion with lights wrapped around them. Pointing the store out to River, he laughs softly and tells me his mother's friend owns it. He goes on to say that she has always been crazy about books, and that when he was 14 she decided to open a bookstore. He spent that whole summer helping her get it ready to open for business. It was his first job. He tells me that he hauled and stacked so many books that he never wanted to look at another book again. Then he jokes that it's why he opted not to go to college. Again, we both laugh and continue toward the bar. Earlier, he asked me about USC, and I asked him how he knew the campus so well. He told me he visited his brother and sister there many times. He also told me his brother was in the Kappa Sigma fraternity, but never lived on campus as an undergraduate or graduate student. I mentioned that Ben was in the same fraternity, but skirted the topic. He told me he went to a few parties at the frat house and then crashed at either his brother's or sister's place. Funny that we only saw each other that one night. But that's good, I guess. I found out that River's mother moved out of Brentwood a couple of years ago when she got remarried. She and her husband now live in River's neighborhood. Her sister lives with them, and his brother lives in what used to be their grandparents' condo in Beverly Hills. His grandparents both died within 6 months of each other last year and left a sizable inheritance to River and his brother and sister. As I'm reminiscing about the day we'd spent together, River bumps my shoulder. "Nervous?" Jostled from my thoughts, I shake my head and say, "No. Should I be?" "No, of course not," he says, grinning at me. "You just seem somewhere else." "I'm right here." I squeeze his hand, my Pac-Man bracelet moving as I tilt my wrist. Turning to walk backward, swinging his guitar to his back, he grabs both my hands and pulls me toward a building that's labeled Smittens. "Did I tell you how beautiful you look?" he asks with an adorable grin and a twinkle in his green eyes. Tonight I'm wearing one of my new outfits. I'm also a little more made up than I usually am, because I'm meeting River's friends and family. After our shopping spree, I chose a black lace swing camisole, cream-colored jeans, black high-heeled boots, and my leather jacket. I changed my underwear into something a little sexier, but I had to go without a bra because of the thin spaghetti straps. It really isn't even noticeable. My hair is down, but a little fuller than I usually wear it, and I'm wearing blush, shadow, liner, mascara, and lip gloss. I suddenly feel that electric force between us when he smiles at me. Actually, you didn't, I say, moving my head so my hair sways side to side. He stops, and I almost walk right into him. Even with all that makeup, you still look perfect, he says, still clasping both of my hands together, bowing his head and touching his nose to mine. What? You don't like makeup? I ask, but I'm not in the least bit offended because neither do I. Standing together on the sidewalk, he slides his mouth to my ear. I didn't say that. I just think you look amazing with or without it. He brushes his lips against mine, ever so lightly, and then turns to catch the door for me. The building has a set of double glass doors and one oversized window with the name Smittens blazoned across it. I walk in first. Red brick walls border the large square room. There's a stage to the left, the bar is all the way in the back, and the wall on the right is lined with chairs and sofas. High-top tables are scattered around the room, and there's a small dance floor in front of the stage. An archway to the back left has a sign hanging above it that reads, Pool Room. The place actually does look like a local neighborhood bar. With his hand on the small of my back, he starts to guide me toward a cluster of different-shaped chairs and a big black sofa with a wooden coffee table separating them. Pointing in that direction, he starts to say, Everyone's over. But before he can finish his sentence, a very cute, young, copper-haired woman comes running up to him, throws her arms around him, and gives him a big kiss on the cheek. River drops my hand to steady her and hugs her back, practically lifting her off the ground. I know immediately this petite, beautiful thing must be his sister Belle. The resemblance is uncanny. They could pass for twins, except her eyes are a much more vibrant green, and she has red streaks in her light copper-brown shoulder-length hair. She's also quite a bit shorter than her brother. River returns his sister's affections, and I can see how much they adore each other. Setting her down, he moves back slightly to rest his guitar against one of the 4 columns in the center of the room. He then laces his fingers with mine, and she thumps him on the chest. Where have you... She doesn't finish as her eyes flicker to our fingers. Her smile turns even bigger, and she eyes us curiously. She actually looks at her hands like she has never seen her brother holding hands with a girl. Looking at River, she coyly says, When you texted me that you had someone you wanted me to meet, I assumed it was a guy. Then she throws her arms around me like we're long-lost friends. Hi, I'm Belle, River's sister. Dahlia, nice to meet you, Belle. I say as she continues to clutch her arms around my back before finally allowing me room to breathe. She studies me for a few beats. You look familiar. I went to USC. River said you were a junior when I was a senior. Shrugging her shoulders, she says, Maybe that's it. Gently tugging on some of my hair, she says, I think I'd remember you. You're so pretty, and the shade of your golden blonde hair is unforgettable. She looks at River and gives him a look that he obviously recognizes because he grins at her. Then, twisting sideways, she winks at the bartender and points to me. Why? I have no idea. Then she diverts her attention back to us. I can tell she has all kinds of questions for her brother, but she holds back. So, where did you two meet? She asks me as River's name is being chanted from across the room. Looking over, I see a dark-haired, dark-eyed man catcalling him. River smiles at me and gestures with his chin toward his friend as he tugs on my hand. Come on. Then says to his sister, You coming? Belle replies, I'll meet you over there. Then winks at me and says, We'll talk later, as she walks off toward the bar. Approaching the seating area, the very attractive dark-haired guy is sipping his beer with an arm draped around the girl standing next to him. As he tilts his bottle back, he eyes me up and down, then finishes his drink before setting it on the table. He drops his arm from the girl and grabs 2 beers out of an ice bucket on the coffee table. Twisting the tops off the Heinekens, he sidesteps the knockout redhead and walks up to us as we approach him. He's about my height with a very athletic build. I could clearly see the definition of his arm muscles as he twisted the caps, and his tight shirt shows signs of well-defined abdominal muscles. He obviously works out. His hair is short, but long enough that it is wispily styled to the side. His eyes are the color of rich chocolate, and his olive complexion makes him appear slightly tanned. He hands one bottle to River and the other to me. "River, man, where the fuck you been? You been MIA," he says. Then, with a big smile, displaying the whitest teeth I have ever seen, he adds, "And who is this beautiful thing you brought with you?" As I look at this guy, who can no doubt woo any girl, I can tell he must be part Native American. Glancing down at the drinks he's holding out, I notice he has a very detailed tribal tattoo circling his bicep, with an intricate feather design running down his arm. "Phoenix, this is my girl, Dahlia London," River says, dropping my hand to place his arm around my shoulder before he says, "Dahlia, this jackass is Nick Stone." "Dahlia, like the flower?" he asks, raising his hand to shake mine. "Nice to meet you." Raising one eyebrow, he asks, "What's a sweet thing like you doing hanging out with this douchebag?" "Language, dude," River says, and he squeezes me a little tighter. I take a sip of my beer to break away from the other guy's gaze. I hate the taste of beer without ice. I decide to ignore his rude question and shake his hand. "Nice to meet you. You're the guitarist?" He nods his head and shakes my hand a little longer than necessary, but stops as River eyes him. Shoving River in the shoulder but looking at me, he says, "Sorry, Dahlia, I'm not used to seeing this guy bring a girl to rehearsal. He never stays with one girl long enough to introduce us to her." I glance over at River rather quickly, but he isn't looking at me. My gaze is broken when someone calls Phoenix's name. "Nix, what crap are you stirring up now?" Belle chimes in, taking the beer out of my hand and handing me some red drink with a lime in it. "Just ignore him. He's always an ass," she says. "Belle, you're lucky I love you," Nix responds, winking at her. Then, looking at River, he says, "Meet you on stage. I'm gonna warm up." As he walks away, he turns, "And Dahlia, it was really a pleasure meeting you." Rolling my eyes at his obvious attempt to piss River off, I raise my glass and ask Belle, "What's this?" "A cranberry crown. Try it." I give it a sip to not be rude, and River bends slightly to whisper in my ear, "Watch out for her drinks." "I heard that," Belle says as she sticks her tongue out at her brother. "River, you made it," another voice says. Glancing to my right, I see the cutest blonde boy reaching to give River a firm handshake and a manly hug. "When do I ever miss, man?" River answers, grabbing for my left hand before introducing us. "Garrett Flynn, this is the girl I told you about." River obviously has a great relationship with this gray-eyed, boyish-looking man. His hair is slightly longer than Nix's or River's, and it almost covers his eyes. His hairstyle and boyish features make him look like he's 15. His lip ring only adds to the look, and his tall, skinny stature certainly doesn't help. But honestly, he's so cute and innocent-looking, I know he must make even the hardest of women melt. "How can I forget the amazing girl you've met twice?" Then he gives me a genuine smile, and I know what he's saying is with the utmost sincerity. "Dahlia, right? I'm Garrett." Extending his hand, he adds, "Nice to finally meet you. I've heard a lot about you." I shake his hand and smile. "Hi, Garrett. I've heard a lot about you, too." Seeing his easy smile, I know I like him already. A moment later, I feel someone approach us from behind. Looking over my shoulder, I see another duplicate of River. "This isn't a reunion. Time to rehearse, girls." He's circling around us, and I can see some differences immediately between their looks, but there is no doubt that this is Xander. Raising his hands in an all's-good gesture, Garrett smiles at me. "Catch you after rehearsal," he says, and then walks towards the stage to join Nix, who is strumming different chords on his guitar. Xander is definitely good-looking, but not in the same charming, adorable way as River. His hair color is the same, but he wears it shorter. He has the same green eyes, but they don't sparkle like River's. His demeanor, I can immediately sense, is cooler, more controlled. Upon first glance, he seems to be the kind of guy who traded in his college cool boy uniform of old sports jerseys, worn-out jeans, and broken-in baseball hats for the city cool boy uniform of button-down shirts, neatly pressed jeans, and a lot of hair gel. He kind of reminds me of Ben. Extending his hand to me, he keeps his eyes on his brother. "Xander, I assume you are Dahlia," he says with a slight chill in his tone. I extend my hand and he shakes it once before pointing to the stage. "They're waiting for you," he says to River. "Yeah, give me a minute." "One is all you get, bro," he says, walking over toward the bar. Belle lets out a yelp, claps her hands over her head, and beckons Xander to come her way. "Xander, come here!" she yells as she slugs back a second shot of what I think is tequila. Looking quizzically at River, he wraps his arms around my waist and kisses me. "I'll explain my family later." Pulling away, he crosses his heart. "Promise." Giving him a smile, I lean in to kiss him again. Drums echo through the room, and I hear testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, blare through the speakers. Looking over to the stage, I see Nick's at the microphone, and he says, "Lever boy, your presence is needed up on stage." River shakes his head. "Come on and sit over here," he says, guiding me toward the high-top table at the end of the dance floor in the center of the stage. "Do you want something different to drink?" he asks as he pulls the bar stool out for me to sit on. "I'm good, lover boy," I joke as I take my jacket off, because it's really hot in here. He takes it from me and drapes it around the back of the chair. I hang my purse on top and sit down as I smile and push him toward the stage. "Thank you. Now go and sing something, will you? I've never gotten to see you with the band, and I'm looking forward to it." "Forward to it, huh?" He winks as he kisses me one last time and turns to leave. I watch him walk to the stage. He's wearing his trademark worn jeans and a plain white t-shirt. I glance at his ass as he turns to pick up his guitar, and he catches me. He shakes his head and flashes me a wicked grin. I wink back and giggle. I'm used to getting caught gawking, so I might as well embrace it. On stage, he takes his jacket off and tosses it to the side before heading over to the microphone stand. He blows into it a few times, and our eyes lock as we grin at each other. Damn, I wish I had my camera with me. He's so incredibly photogenic, and I'd really love to get some shots of him up on the stage, where he's in his element, so relaxed and comfortable. He starts to sing a few notes, and I can tell this is pretty casual, and definitely more like a rehearsal than a show, because there are no introductions. Some people stop and watch while others, probably used to the band's rehearsals, continue with their conversations. Once the song starts, I can't peel my eyes away from him. It's an old one, but seeing him sing sends shivers down my spine. He's so serious, and when he's more than halfway through it, he seems to lose himself in the song. And I don't want the song or this moment to end. As it does, I slowly recover my composure and shoot him a thumbs up. He winks at me again and turns to talk to Garrett. I'm finally able to sip the drink that Belle handed me earlier when she walks over and sits next to me. Handing me a blue iced drink, she says, "Bottoms up," then clinks her glass to mine. It's an interesting mix of blueberry and cranberry. I kind of like it. "And this would be?" I ask after drinking a healthy gulp. "No idea. I just told Tate I love cranberries and blueberries, and this is what he made for us." "Tate?" "The bartender and my very good friend." She smiles over at the hulk-sized man behind the bar who is staring back at us. Not sure how to respond to her, I point to my drink and give Tate a thumbs up. He flashes a smile, then turns to Belle and mouths, "You like?" "Excuse me," she says as she gets up from the table. "I just want to thank him properly. I'll be back in a few minutes for some girl talk." I glance up at the stage and see River watching me. Since I'm in a thumbs-up kind of mood, I shoot him another one as he adjusts the microphone stand and puts his guitar over his shoulder. He turns for what looks like a powwow with the band and Xander. Glancing toward the bar, I see Belle leaning over it, flirting with Tate. I wonder if he's her boyfriend or just her bar boyfriend, but I can't tell. Then I see her plunk her drink down on the bar and stamp her foot before traipsing into the room marked pool room, Tate following quickly behind. After witnessing their little exchange, I'm guessing he's her boyfriend. I hear River start to sing a song I know well. It's the one he told me he wrote about me. His eyes find me as he sings the lyrics to Once in a Lifetime, and when he hits the chorus, he closes them. Having finished my blueberry concoction, I go back to the cranberry crown as I listen intently to River singing. I love the sound of his rough but smooth tone. Closing my eyes, I take in his voice without any distractions. Then the clanking of a bottle being set on the table makes me open them, and I feel slightly dizzy for a second. I know I need to slow down. I am a lightweight to begin with, and having eaten an early dinner, I don't have much food in my stomach to absorb Tate's drinks. The song ends, and River lifts his shirt to wipe some sweat off his face. This exposes his firm stomach, and I'm not the only one who notices. Girls throughout the bar are cheering, and I'm torn between doing the same or just running up there and pulling him down off the stage. I choose the former. He looks over at me as he lets his shirt fall and winks, but I stop my cheering when Xander takes a seat next to me. He sets a bottle of Black Label Patron on the table and adds 2 shot glasses with chasers. Xander smiles at me, but his smile doesn't have any softening effect on his cold green eyes. I've heard a lot about you. I am not sure why he doesn't seem to like me, but I smile cordially anyway. I've heard a lot about you, too. Pouring 2 shots, he slides one over, but not all the way. He looks at the stage, at his brother, and at the other band members. I get the feeling he's avoiding looking at me, but he manages to say, "You're the reason River didn't answer his phone all weekend." The music stops, and the 3 bandmates step to the side to discuss something. River is pointing to the fretboard of his acoustic guitar, and Nix is pointing to the strings on his electric guitar. Garrett is nodding, then shaking his head. "They'll be a while," Xander says, leaning back in his chair. He pushes the shot directly in front of me, and I look over at him, about to decline, when a wicked grin appears on his face. "Drink with me, Muse?" I look up at River, but he's still talking to Nix. Without saying another word, Xander licks his index finger and rubs it in the salt. He motions for me to do the same. So, deciding a drink can only help calm the uneasiness I feel in his presence, I dip my finger in the Patron, wet my wrist, and coat it in salt. Licking the salt, I quickly down the tequila and grab a lime wedge. He does the same. When we're done, he pours 2 more shots. "Another?" "What are we drinking to?" "Life." "Okay, life. I'll drink to that." Then, as I set up another shot, I ask, "What's with the name Muse?" He doesn't answer as he tips his head back and drinks his Black Label without even a "here's to." I do the same, but when I set my glass down, I ask another question. "Have I done something to offend you?" Guitar chords are being played, but the band has their backs to us, seemingly still disputing. After pouring a 3rd round, he leans even further back on his bar stool. "Where should I start?" He twirls his glass on the table, some of the liquid spilling out. "Let's see. First, I'm a little pissed off at my brother right now. He had a radio interview on Sunday morning here in L.A. that he blew off." Xander looks directly at me for the first time since sitting down. He actually seems more peeved at me than at his brother as he continues. "I called him all fucking weekend and he never answered his goddamn phone until today." "I'm sorry, I didn't know." I have no idea why I'm apologizing. River has started to play again, but is still turned to Nix. He's singing a song I've never heard. "You know what?" he asks, but I don't answer because it seems like a loaded question. He continues anyway. "That's not even what really pisses me off." He drinks another shot, this time straight, and refills the glass again. Drinking my shot straight as well, I force back the bile rising up my throat, and I know I have to stop. "So what is it that pisses you off, Xander?" I ask, equally as cool now. I have had enough of his shit. "You," he says, not taking his eyes off mine. "Me? What have I done to you?" "You don't know, do you? He didn't tell you?" "No, of course he didn't," he wryly says, pushing a 4th shot my way. River is turned around and is staring at me with concern. I give him a little smile and return my gaze back to Xander. I have no idea what River's singing now, because I'm not listening to the words. The alcohol is flowing through my veins, and my judgment is more than a little off. I give Xander a measured glance and push the glass back toward him, as if to say enough, and I don't just mean the alcohol. No what? I can see by his glazed eyes that he's more than drunk. Leaning forward, he turns to face me, but I lean away. You should be flattered that I call you Muse. In fact, I've referred to you that way for a long time. Sighing heavily, he looks up at River for a moment, then continues. That song you wrote about you is why the band is successful today. So you were his muse. He did tell me that, I say, feeling the need to defend River. I honestly have no idea where his brother's anger is coming from. Shooting me an irritated look, he says, No, not about the song. He says it like I'm an idiot. Then what? I ask, even though I need to excuse myself to use the bathroom. I stand up and the room starts to spin. He snorts as he answers. River had brought Belle to the bar the first night you met him. Rather than bring her home himself, he asked me to do it so he could stay and talk to you. She was in a hurry to meet some guy at her apartment, and I wasn't ready to leave, so my sister left without me. His sad tone draws me back into the conversation. Glancing at me, as if he is annoyed that I stood up, I quickly sit back down and he continues. I was easily distracted back then and had stopped to talk to somebody, and before I knew it, she had left with a friend. When River saw me at the bar with no sign of Belle, he tried to call her. She didn't answer and he was concerned, so he went to her apartment. She wasn't home, so he called me and asked me where to look. I told him to try my frat house, and I think he did. Before I heard back from him, I got a call from my mother. As this scene plays out, I know what is coming. It's not going to be good. Our eyes lock and neither of us blinks until he finally says, Turns out the friend she caught a ride with was drunk and ran a red light. Their small car was hit by an SUV. Belle's friend died instantly, and Belle spent 6 months in the hospital recovering. The trauma of the accident affected her so much she didn't care about school anymore. She never went back. My mouth drops open and I shake my head, telling myself that this is fiction. It's made up. It's not real. My unfocused eyes narrow in on Xander's sullen expression, and all I see is the truth. Bile rises up in my throat, and I know I am going to lose it. He blames me. Does River blame me? Does their family blame me? I'm sorry, I say again for the second time tonight. I'm paralyzed by his words, glued to my seat. He ignores my apology and continues. As far back as I can remember, Belle always wanted to be a doctor, especially when her father died. She wanted nothing more than to save people. But because of the accident, she didn't take that path. So instead of being a doctor, she works for me as my assistant. She gets drunk most nights and never talks about the life she should have had. Throwing back one more shot, he clears his throat. So, Dahlia, do you see my problem now? Then he points to River and says in a louder voice, You were the only chick he ever even bothered to look for. And you didn't stick around that night. Tell me why. Turning to the stage, I catch sight of River's furrowed brow. His eyes are narrowed in on his brother. Seeing his expression makes my body tremble, and tears fill my eyes as I look away. I don't even know Belle, but my heart aches for her. How can I start a relationship with someone under these circumstances? I stand up again, slightly wobbly, and stumble as I grip the table for balance. I need to remove myself from this situation, but Xander isn't finished. Almost laughing, he adds, And now, I see my brother tonight, happier than I've seen him in a long time. So I want to know why you left that night. There's obviously something between the two of you. I could hear it in his voice when he talked to me today. His questions end, and then he throws the dagger.
If only you would have stayed."
I grab the tequila shot that he poured for himself from the middle of the table and down it, hoping the quick gulp of this mind-numbing liquid will give me the ability to escape this hell. Then, finally able to stand without fear of stumbling, I give River one last glance before leaving. I feel sick and need to get out of here. He stops singing and quickly removes his guitar strap from his shoulder. I know Xander must be pretty near rip-roaring drunk, but I'm surprised when he suddenly grips my bare arm, preventing me from walking away. With his eyes burning into me, he says,
"Have you had enough? Because there's more to tell."
"Excuse me, I need to use the restroom," I manage to say, not able to listen to another word. I take off for the restroom without even glancing at River again, barely making it to the bathroom in time. I kneel on the floor, lift the seat, and try not to lean my head against it. The room is spinning as I heave into the toilet. When I think my stomach is finally empty, I sit back on my heels for a minute to steady myself. Once the spinning has stopped, I stand up and make my way to the sink for the cool water I so desperately need. Leaning against the counter with my head down in the sink, my senses start to return. I wonder why River didn't tell me about this himself. How could he possibly think this information wouldn't impact us? His brother harbors such resentment toward me, and I'm sure the rest of his family must as well. Hearing the door open, I already know who it is. As I look in the mirror and see his reflection, all I can do is cry uncontrollably. Coming over to me, he turns me around and grabs my face with both of his hands. He looks into my eyes, unaware of what I already know.
"Are you okay? Are you sick? Did something happen with Xander?"
He doesn't even pause for me to answer. I shake my head no, but mean yes. I'm not crying because I'm sick. I'm crying because I might very well be the cause of somebody's life being drastically damaged. "Why didn't you tell me?" I hoarsely whisper while trying to stop myself from crying.
"Tell you what? What are you talking about?" he asks.
"About your sister," I say, surprised by the hardness in my voice.
"Christ, what the hell?"
he starts to say. With his face so close to mine, I'm sure he can smell the alcohol mixed with vomit on my breath. Before he says anything else, the bathroom door opens and Xander is standing there. River turns around, but Xander doesn't move toward us. He stays in the doorway, slightly swaying. He looks directly at me.
"I'm sorry I was the one that told you, but you had to know."
I'm impressed by his ability to speak clearly in his drunken state. River's eyes narrow at Xander.
"What the hell did you tell her?"
I'm startled by River's hostility toward his brother.
"We didn't vow secrecy, and she needed to know,"
he says in a more humble tone than he's used all night. My buzz is quickly dissipating as I look at Xander blankly, perhaps a little confused. He was so angry with me before, and now he's apologizing? River's face is pale as he looks back over to me, processing what Xander has said. Running his fingers through his hair, he steps closer to Xander as he says,
"What I told you about Belle, those are my demons. I just wanted someone else to blame for once, and there you were after all these years. Sorry, man, but she had to know."
River slams his fist into the stall door nearest to Xander.
"It wasn't your place to tell her."
He doesn't even flinch from River's punch. Stepping closer to River, Xander says,
"You're right. And River, I know you aren't going to believe this, but I want you to be happy. I know you think you just met this girl, but to me you've known her way longer. I know how you are. I don't want you to fuck this up because of your need to always protect women because of..."
It seems that Xander has struck a nerve with River, because he cuts him off before he can finish his thought.
"You don't think I know that you harbored guilt about Belle? I do. But that's your guilt, not mine. I let that go a long time ago. Belle is happy with her life. It's you that's not happy. And as for how you see my needs, you're wrong."
It's both heartbreaking and heartwarming to watch these two brothers tear each other apart over their sister. They must love her so much to care about her so deeply. Stammering, Xander shakes his head, pointing his finger at River.
You think I don't know that you hide your guilt? You can pretend you are happy with how Belle's life turned out, but I know different." Then he smiles sadly as he says, "You aren't even the one who should feel guilty. A long time ago you asked me to. No, I told you that I would take Belle home so you could find this girl," pointing at me. "You've found her now, so don't let me or Belle or anyone else screw it up for you. But most of all, don't let yourself screw it up." Pain flashes through me from Xander's words. Am I really to blame for their sister's accident? Should I have told River the truth when I first met him? Couldn't I have just stuck around and told him the truth about Ben? Would it have mattered? My head is spinning, and I may be sick again. Xander smiles sadly, his eyes glassy as he looks from his brother to me. "Dahlia, I'm sorry. It has been a shitty day, and I took it out on you." Then looking back to River, he puts his hand on his shoulder, but River pulls back. "Bro, I'll call you tomorrow." And with that, he turns and leaves us in the bathroom. River walks back to me as tears fill my eyes again. Swiping my fingers under my eyes, I scrunch my forehead. "You should have been the one to tell me, not him!" I yell, pointing to the door, not in anger, but in sadness. He stops before me and swallows. Exhaling a shaky breath, he looks into my eyes before whispering, "Dahlia, that's not how I wanted our relationship to start." But I pull away before he can even finish. I don't want his touch or his charm to cloud my judgment about where we stand. I stare back into his eyes as he flinches from my sudden movement. They are now hazy, no longer gleaming. "River," I say a little softer, feeling the need to make sure he knows that an omission is still a lie. I didn't want our relationship to start like this either. But hiding things from me, I can't. I won't be in a relationship like that. But what's more, what does this mean for us? I feel bad about my words, but a lie is a lie, regardless of why it was told or how it was hidden. This I know well. I experienced it with Ben just that one time, and it almost ended our relationship. But this time, with River, I'm more concerned about what this secret will do to our relationship than about the actual secret itself. He stands there, shaking his head. "I was going to tell you, but I hadn't found the right time yet." Averting my eyes with a shaky breath, I managed to say, "I need some air." I walk past him, through the dimly lit bar, and out the doors into the chilly night. There's a cool breeze in the air, sending a shiver down my spine. As I walk to nowhere, I know this time the shiver isn't from his touch. Instead, it's from the secret he kept from me. It's from the cold of the night. There are still so many people walking through the streets that we happily walked down earlier that night, but the happiness I felt then is gone. The people seem to be more hurried as well. They're huddling together, almost rushing in and out of the many bars and restaurants that line the street. November in California isn't usually this cold, but the dampness seems to warn of impending rain. Glancing upward in hopes of seeing some light, finding some answers, all I see are thick clouds covering any stars that I might have seen. They only allow a glimpse of the moon's slight crescent-shaped glow and provide no guidance. Looking ahead instead of up, because I know I will find no comfort from the sky tonight, I continue to walk, clutching my body to keep warm, and wondering why life has to be so complicated. "Here, put this on," he says, taking his jacket off and wrapping it around my bare shoulders. He walks close to me, but doesn't touch me. "If you want to go home, the car's the other way." Maybe I'm not as sober as I thought. Stopping, I turn to look at him. We are toe-to-toe. With tears in my eyes, I say the words I don't really want to say, but know I have to. "River, I think it's time for me to go back home." Slumping, he closes his eyes and whispers, "Not like this. Not until we talk about everything." My heart breaks as I look at him, but I know I have to go. I need some time to think, River. I can't do that here. His eyes snap to mine, and his voice cracks in anger. What happened to my sister has nothing to do with us. You going home and thinking isn't going to change that, or even make you understand.
Looking at him, I hear him, but choose to ignore his words. I need time to think, and not in my drunken state. I can call Ari or Serena to come pick me up if you don't want to take me home. Then remembering I didn't bring my phone, I ask, "Can I use your phone?" River's control breaks, ignoring my request. His voice grows louder than he has ever spoken to me before.
"Dahlia, are you listening to me? That shit that just happened in there, that's Xander's life." Motioning between us, he continues, "I am not going to let someone's misperception about what happened change this." Grabbing my shoulders firmly, he says, "You can't just say you were leaving. You can't leave me again."
I shrug out of his grip and sway slightly as I take a step back. "That's the point, River. I'm not leaving you again. I never left you 5 years ago because I wasn't with you." Tears are sliding down my face uncontrollably. My teeth are chattering, and I am freezing. But I continue with what must be said. I met a guy at a bar that I was attracted to, and before things got out of hand, I left. Now I find out that some unmentionable horror happened to your family because of my actions, and you think we're going to be okay? He flinches at my tone, but tenderly places his arms on my shoulders. Lowering his face so we're at eye level, he says, "That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's not like that." With complete honesty, I say, "I just don't know if I can do this. This thing we have is way more complicated than two people who are incredibly attracted to each other. Your brother is going crazy having me here. Does your sister even know any of this? And what about your mother? What will she say?"
"Dahlia, listen to me,"
he says, but I don't. I can't. I don't want my heart to break again, so instead I turn around and start walking in the other direction, toward his car as he keeps pace. I navigate the sidewalk surprisingly well, considering how foggy my brain feels. Neither of us says another word. As we reach the parking garage, with my whole body shaking, I get into the car and wait for him to sit. I look at him, and I see he's shaking as well. With tears in my eyes and sadness in my voice, I say what I know I felt since Xander told me about his sister. "Here's the thing, River. I've already lost someone I loved, and it almost killed me. What I feel for you is so much more than I ever expected. And I know that if I stay here with you and begin to live again, that I won't survive losing you. And losing you is inevitable. We can't be together if your family blames me for your sister's accident. In the end, it will be our undoing." Shaking his head, he touches my cheek and forces me to look at him. "That's just it. No one blames anyone. Belle is happy. Our family is happy. Xander can't accept what happened. And to answer your question, yes, my family knows about then and about now, and they're happy for me. For us." He holds my gaze, then leans in and kisses me. With that kiss, I feel the air fill my lungs once more, and life returns. I pull away from his soft lips, confused. I don't know what to do, but I feel like this night has been a reality check. "I believe you, but it's still time for me to stop playing house with you. I have to go home tomorrow." Chapter 20. Little Things. "Dahlia," he says, and his tone is as dark and sad as the place I have lived for the past 2 years. "One day, if you change your mind, just know you'll always be my once-in-a-lifetime." He presses soft kisses to my forehead and nose, then turns, leaving me at the front door to the house I shared with Ben for so many years. The house that is now empty, and the house where, once again, I will be alone. Fear starts to wrench through my body, not from being alone, but of being without him. Did I make the wrong decision? Can we get past this? My questions don't really matter, because it's too late. I've already said things I shouldn't have. I made the decision to end us. "Don't leave me!" I yell as he walks down the path that leads to another life, turning and glancing at me over his shoulder. His eyes are no longer a gleaming shade of green. They're cloudy, hazy. "I'm not," he says as he keeps walking. "You left me, beautiful girl." Tears stream down my face as I let him go, and he fades into the horizon.